Podcast. We're wrapping it up. We're talking about big changes in WWE that go well beyond 2020, 2021, 2022. What will wrestling be like? A huge name is coming back to SmackDown. Your comments are on screen, and we got Wednesday Night Ratings. What's up, everybody? I am Kevin Callum. I am not alone. We go down to the man who's throwing a temper tantrum down in Florida for a lot of different real-life reasons. All right, we're going to get him up here on screen. We bring in our very own Mr. Robert DeFelice. Robert joining me now. Robert, how are you? I get to borrow you from Fightful for the day.
You do. Kevin, well, before we get started, I know because of the overlays, I know people are worried. Why are we so zoomed in? We're so zoomed in because this is how the frame fits the screen, and it needs to be this way. So
and my head is big. My head is big both physically and proverbially in terms of attitude. And I said, you have to give me my vanity light. You know what I mean? I really want people to see these baby blue eyes. They need to know it when they're watching the podcast.
And Kevin, their beautiful eyes. We are here on the WrestleZone wrap up, but we're talking about a whole different safety measure outside of wrapping it up, Kevin.
Yeah, and we have a bunch of big news. We have some good news and we have some bad news in terms of wrestling and what's going on.
It's 2020. It wouldn't be news without bad news.
It would not be 20 minutes in the year 2020 without some bad news. But here is some good news. If you're watching the show and you're enjoying it, we're going to get your comments on screen. If you're watching for the first time, we want to see your comments on screen for sure. And if you haven't done it already, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Make sure your notifications are on so you know exactly when we go live, because we're adding a whole slew of additional shows that will be video only starting before the end of the week, end of the month, rather, including a new show that we're going to be dropping in the podcast feed and various video feeds that we have as well, covering SmackDown. I pitched a name for it. I don't know if it has cleared the executive board just yet, but the name is quite ridiculous, and it references a early 2000s nu metal song. That's all I'll say. It works in that. I won't tell you what it is. I'll let you try and guess. And that'll be our SmackDown post show, which we'll be posting Friday nights into Saturday mornings with the great Colin Tessier, who will be joining the rotation here in a little bit. Speaking of SmackDown, we do have some big SmackDown news for them. Their season premiere episode will feature superstars from Raw who were on SmackDown last week, and hardcore fans are throwing a fit, but it'll also feature a big returning name. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about some very scary news coming out of the collective independent wrestling events in Indianapolis, Indiana this past weekend with some COVID-19 tests and some speculation about whether or not people were tested prior to the event or after the event and everything going on with social media and that. And we'll get your questions answered live on screen. Love seeing some familiar names here in the chat. Love seeing some big fans of the show. Thank you so much. But let's get into the news of the day. WrestleVotes always does the big scoop 'em stories. This Twitter account, which we don't know the source of, is seemingly always breaking these huge stories, and they broke another big one today, Robert.
Yeah, those big old protein powder scoops. Kevin, do you like going to wrestling shows?
I like going to wrestling shows. I got to go to the AEW show a few weeks ago and work at it. I got to see some of it. I was working at the show, but it was very refreshing and very fun in a different way. There was certainly an odd feeling in the air, obviously, with everything. And will shows be what they are? I've heard some people have gone to live events. It says it's like it, but it's not exactly the same, but still better than nothing, right? Well,
if you like going to WWE shows and you really like house shows, you might have to wait until 2022. Now, WrestleVotes on Twitter says they're hearing that the traditional WWE schedule of Friday SmackDown, Saturday, Sunday house shows, and Monday Raw may not return until 2022.
Which is crazy. That's crazy.
Now, I saw a lot of people jumping on this like, hey, does this mean no fans until 2022? No, I do not expect that to be the case. I think that we are close to getting fans at WWE events. I just don't think we'll be seeing superstars travel all over the place.
Yeah, and that's because that's another, you can mitigate risk. You can mitigate risk for your staff, mitigate risk for your crew. The less shows you do, the more, I would say, more streamlined your shows are, the better they can be in terms of safety regulations and how you can regulate where people get to go, where they get to eat, where they get to shop, what they're doing, how they travel, how they're on a plane. Can you do shows where you don't have to put people on planes? Do people want to feel comfortable on planes? There's a lot of logistics that are so much compact and compound all of this that were already there when you were doing this, 24/7, and these crews were on the road. I mean that not just the wrestlers, but the producers, the talents, the live event producers that I've been able to talk to, and different people that and talent that I've been able to have some contact with as well. It's a very arduous thing to be on the road for WWE. When you add, hey, if you're with them in that loop, you have those shows every week. The holiday loops are very, very daunting as well. So I can understand it. And also, will there be the demand there for live events? Some people say there is. Other people say maybe not. I think there'll be a demand for big televised events and big pay-per-views and stuff like that. But, like house shows, non-televised house shows for WWE, they were fun, but they weren't moving huge numbers. You're playing arenas and you're doing half full arenas and stuff like that. And, enough of the fans, even the casual fans, know it's not the same thing as a televised event.
Never minding the main roster for 5 seconds. This hurts the NXT brand the most because that's how you saw different angles and whether or not they were working, and you could try different pairings. They need the travel more than WWE main roster stars need the travel. Now, is this set in stone? No, this is from WrestleVotes. Very reliable source, but plans are changing every day. Fluidity is the name of the game, and maybe we have fans by August, and maybe we're doing house shows by August.
That's a very long time away. You mean that's a very, very long time away. And mind you, things can change. We keep bringing up what it'll be like after the vaccine. Will we just have events when we know a vaccine is coming? Will people start going to events without a vaccine? What?
Well, I think you're already seeing that people will go to events without a vaccine if they feel safe. Now, in terms of a vaccine, I believe the WHO put out something either last night or this morning saying for the average adult, vaccines will not be readily available until 2022 as well. Maybe there's some coinciding factors there. I don't know. But I think 2022 is a smart thing to say because as much as we don't want to talk about it, we're almost a year in to COVID and living with this. And we see that it's still evolving, still changing. It's affecting wrestling in so many different ways. You've got the collective. We're going to talk about it a little bit. That, yes, you tried to run these shows, and you're seeing a few things pop up here and there. Is it going to be safe to run shows?
A lot of people texting in here. A man who certainly knows something about the WWE and things here. He says, Jay Feliciano saying, really don't see Mr. McMahon waiting until 2022.
I don't think Mr. McMahon cares about house shows, Jay. I mean, let's talk about this. In the May quarterly conference call, he flat out said, well, we're not in the live event business anymore. He wrote it off. This is going to be up to Triple H and creative and people who care about the growth and progression of wrestlers inside the squared circle to try to bring the house shows back.
And house shows are the big thing that is affected here. We know from some basic knowledge that is known from some people that follow wrestling and specifically WWE contracts that a lot of people in their downside guarantee, the majority of that comes from working live events that in most cases are not televised. House shows, WWE Live, right?
Now, but in fairness, that's not necessarily maybe in the contract that way. It's a factor of, well, it comes from that because that's the way our business is structured. That's why you saw Andrew Yang was saying that maybe wrestlers are being forced to sign new contracts And, it was said in the reveal, I believe, from Wrestling Inc., that the cameo and Twitch stuff will count against the downside guarantee. This may be a major reason as to why.
Yeah, because you're not going to be able to put these people on the road in the same way that you were before, because you simply can't guarantee it all the time. And I think another thing for some people to bring up here, and then we kind of get into regional things specifically. I think this affects WWE's international business. Internationally, their presence on live events has always been seen as a big thing for fans outside of the United States who don't get to see it as much. I also think this affects fans in different parts of the country, but different parts of North America, obviously, especially outside of your major markets. I'm talking about your medium market towns. I'm talking about your Indianapolis. I'm talking about Peoria's. I'm talking about, we had Karen text in from Jamestown, New York. I'm talking about towns like that. Albany, different towns along the way that you would say they're, 500,000 to 1 million people. Those towns are not going to get live events now. And they're not going to, 9 times out of 10, they're not going to get television shows or pay-per-views. So this puts them out of the loop. So this will be WWE, when they do get to come back to fans, hitting up major markets, major media markets, where we're not just going to do a show. Obviously, we're going to do a big media market push. So we're going to go back to a New York, a Boston, a Chicago, an LA if they'll have us, a Houston, major towns. And I would suspect, just because Florida's been so kind to them, that maybe some of those first shows will be in Florida. And because the regulations
that's a strong suggestion, and I think they will be.
Yeah, I believe so as well. Let's get into some other things. We do have some other unfortunate COVID-related news to touch on that goes outside of WWE, but WWE did have NXT on last night. I thought it was a pretty strong show, not the best NXT, and the same thing for AEW, their 1-year anniversary on TNT. Pretty solid shows. Just I expected a little bit more from both. Some of it was underwhelming, some of it was great. But let's get into ratings. What are the ratings?
Okay, the ratings. According to Showbuzz Daily, the October 14th episode of AEW Dynamite drew 826,000 viewers, up from last week's 750,000. Aside from October 7th and October 14th, this was the least watched 2-hour episode since August 27th. So still kind of not as high as AEW could be. NXT, on the other hand, drew 651,000 viewers, which is slightly up from 639,000. So both shows are up, but Dynamite decisively winning there. Hard to beat that with every title on the line. I think it's a marathon, not a sprint, was a very popular phrase last year as the war began.
Mm-hmm.
And I still think NXT can play the long game. They've been hurt by injuries and stuff, but I think it's a long game that they're going for. And Dynamite is a one brand show. Like, you want to see Jericho? That's only Dynamite. You want to see Moxley? That's only Dynamite. NXT doesn't really have stars like that. You're really relying on the hardcore fan that wants to watch Johnny Gargano and Candice LeRae buy a television.
Yeah, and it's true, and it's another WWE show. And for some people, as I've always said, the appeal of AEW is it's big-time wrestling that is accessible, that you can watch with some names you've heard of, and it's not WWE. The appeal of it, the number one appeal of it, is it's big-time wrestling that isn't WWE. And they can ride that as long as they can, but there are some things about it that do concern me. In terms of they're starting to, storyline-wise, have some of the same trips and traps that they create for themselves that WWE has in terms of cohesiveness week to week. What do these stupid these rankings mean if you're not going to follow through on them? And it's not following through on stuff that you've set up already, or waiting so long to set it up that I don't care by the time you do.
Now, you and John Clark did a fantastic podcast last night. I know that you guys always hold it down over here and touched on a lot of that. I touched on some of that as well over on Fightful. So I would like to keep this brief and concise. Dynamite is great. It's a good show. Bell to bell, it's always going to be Dynamite. But there are so many stupid things on this show. Yeah. So many just silly things on this television program. Why is Miro saying, "Oh, you good friends, you broke my shit"? First of all, it wasn't even yours; it was Kip Sabian's. Second, like you're so cool with Kip Sabian because you love video games. It's a very strange take on a character that has a lot of equity built in, and a match with John Cena at WrestleMania. I'm gonna wear that into the ground on every single podcast that I appear on, because I think it is ridiculous that this man is the last guy to have a straight up singles match with John Cena at WrestleMania, and they're not treating it like you just won the World Series.
It was a big deal when he came over. It was a huge.
It was no. It was, but here was the big deal. The big deal
that was less than a month ago, right?
Less than a month ago, and the big deal really was.
And now he's just a guy. He's just another guy.
Because they're falling into the TNA traps already, where it's they got Rusev. Hell yeah, Rusev told them to take the brass ring and shove it up their ass. Hell yeah, he's playing video games.
He's playing video games, dude.
I love Rusev, and maybe he's gonna watch this, and he's gonna, be offended that I'm knocking him. I like him, but I just want more. And this rankings thing, this freaking let's throw the tag.
I know it seems like we're bashing it, but these are just things that are just glaringly obvious when the show has so many strong wrestlers and so many great matches on it.
And let me just explain that you can bash something out of love. Kevin and I critique each other all the time. Yeah. We want each other to do better. We want the things that we love to grow and succeed and be better. That is what I am saying when I say that Dynamite made absolutely no sense. And how are you going to tout a sports-centric presentation when you just go, "Hey, all you tag teams, your names have been thrown into a tumbler, and we're going to pick names out of a hat. Why do you have a ranking system?" It's very glaring. And listen, Jericho and MJF can sell me on anything, but the idea that I now have to watch them eat steak next week as we're building towards a match that we don't even know what we're getting yet.
Yeah, are they going to be in a match? Are they going to be in a tag team? How many weeks do we have to the pay-per-view
now? Probably next week and the week after.
So we have 3 weeks. And we know we're going to have a tournament. We know we're going to have this. We know we have some things, but there's no set match. Apparently, we're going to have Eddie Kingston versus Jon Moxley in some way or another.
I think it's a submission match. It looks like
I think it's a submission match as well. You're going to do something with Cody, maybe some mixture of a multi-man.
Cody Darby Allin.
Kobe and Darby Allin, which they kind of already committed to, but you have Brody Lee hanging over that. He didn't pin Orange Cassidy. Orange Cassidy went the limit with him.
Orange Cassidy gets the match in 2 weeks. I expect maybe Brody Lee ends up tangling with Orange Cassidy. It's okay.
That's the problem. It's just they've built up a standard of stuff that you expect, and now it's just below that standard, and it feels very obvious. It isn't bad, but it's very obvious. And my thing is, if you're NXT, even with the injuries, you have Finn Balor, who has 2 pieces of metal in his jaw. You can't put Kyle O'Reilly in there. You just had Ridge Holland get hurt, right? You have all these different issues. You just had the shakeup with Raw and SmackDown. But I've said it. What is stopping WWE from pulling the trigger and saying, Roman Reigns, we're going to have you do something on Wednesday night? Daniel Bryan, we're going to have you do something on Wednesday night. And we're getting near that time where Survivor Series happens, and this cycle could repeat itself last week, and NXT comes in and wins a few weeks or takes over that winter season like they did last year for about a month or so with crossover stuff, which has worked in the past. I'm not saying it's going to work again, and I'm not saying I'm rooting for NXT to do it, but the cycle's there. It could work, and WWE's done it before, and they've been successful with it.
I'm looking at the current landscape, and I'm going to say I don't think that they do NXT and the brand warfare for Survivor Series. I don't even know if they do brand warfare for Survivor Series.
Oh, I could see them getting away from that though too. As I'm sitting on my triple brand chair from Survivor Series last year.
It doesn't feel nearly as big. Adam Cole is working an injury. There's no Becky Lynch. And I'm sorry, I love
it was
Asuka.
really special last year. I would say that Survivor Series card was one of the better pay-per-views that WWE had last year because you got to see NXT shine so much, and also the other brands made them look great. All those people from Raw and SmackDown like elevated those guys and knew they had to do that. And that felt special, but now you have a whole nother roster shakeup. Why are these guys that are brand new to brands that they're just getting used to?
Now they're
why do they care?
I'm gonna SmackDown is my home, and I'm Big E.
I've been here for 6 weeks, and I love it.
I'm gonna run right over my former friends. I don't care about them. I care about SmackDown. It doesn't. You don't do it this year. You can skip it. You can. It's okay. You can blame it on COVID. See, my issue is WWE hasn't taken nearly enough chances in COVID era. And you can point to very real facts that the things that they have tried have worked. Dominic Mysterio instantly became a top guy because they took a shot on him and it worked. Roman Reigns and Jey Uso was not a thing I thought of in August, but now it's like the coolest thing. You know, you got to take more chances, and you have license to do so right now. And you're not.
Here's a big comment. I want to read this one here. This is a good one. Russell Haddock's we talking about issues with AEW that are worrisome, right? And that's the main problem is they're worrisome. I can see fans being more upset about this in the future than they are now. He says WWE has been sports entertainment while fans wanting it as pro wrestling. AEW was built as the alternative, only to grow into sports entertainment.
So this is a very interesting take. Because this says that 365 days later, you already just see AEW as WWE Light.
It's not
that
great.
Is an issue. That
means all the coolness that you branded into this thing that was built in and that people loved
sucked dry.
I wouldn't say it sucked dry. I wouldn't say that at all. I mean, if they ran shows, fans would show up. Just like if WWE ran shows, I think fans would show up and people would be activated. And it still trends very high on Twitter. I can tell you, I do see some bot behavior though with that is concerning. And so when you can see enough of that on the surface, sometimes it's a little, okay, how legit is that? I wouldn't say it's not legit, but it may not be as legit as you think it is. And then we're now getting to the point where you just have people that want to love AEW and bash NXT or WWE. It's a main thing. People get on the internet and waste their energy on it. It's a waste of time. So there's that pettiness with it too. And, here's the thing. Young Bucks and FTR can have a great match, but no one can tell me this feels like it's going to be a dream match when they get in ring with each other. It doesn't feel like it should be. And maybe that's the point. Maybe they just want it to feel like a really cool bell-to-bell match. It's not going to feel like this epic confrontation in a story they can build to because they know they really can't sell out, Daily's place. They can't even sell out any place with it. They physically can't, safely do it. So I don't know. Maybe this is AEW saying we're going to hold off some things. We're going to hold off the real dream match. We're going to hold off the real, Kenny Omega bout machine stuff until we get to the other side. Do you think that's kind of what's going on here? Because they don't have to tell stories like WWE does where they have to build up to almost a pay-per-view or a takeover or something every month. They have 2 months to get to stuff. But I think they've been a little bit long in the tooth getting to full gear. I was thinking we were at least going to have a big match announced by now.
I think that they've announced this tournament and we're getting Bucks FTR. I would be very surprised if we don't see the Young Bucks win that Fatal 4-Way in the next week and wrestle FTR. And if they don't, I think it's a clear-cut sign that they're waiting for the pandemic to end. However, I think with the way that wrestling is and wrestling fans are, how much longer can you hold out?
Yeah. How much longer can you hold out? And, WWE didn't want to hold out with Edge. They still gave you Edge coming back and treated it like a big thing. And he came back at the Royal Rumble. And
hold on. In fairness, January, we were knee deep into a pandemic.
We weren't.
I think that the rushed one was the one for the greatest match of all time.
Oh, yes.
At Backlash. And
yes.
Maybe that is part of the reason he got hurt. But, that's okay. Because, again, how long can you hold off on things? And AEW is in the weird position of, hey, at this point, this is more of your normal than normal is your normal. Because you've done more of these COVID shows than you have regular shows.
Good point. People are gonna have to adjust to it here. Carl from the UK, always big faithful fan of the show. Thank you for staying up late here with us, Carl. Saying I feel NXT is a better show than Raw and SmackDown because it's a shorter show. NXT has to hold off on any undercard storytelling. Yeah, there's some people that think that too. I mean, it's a little bit. I mean, it's the same time as SmackDown. It's still the 2 hours, but I think the main issue that people have with Monday Night Raw is it's just too long. It's just too much.
There's
stuff
no reason for it to be 3 hours. If you announced that it was 2 hours today,
yep,
people would cry. There are some diehard wrestling fans who would openly weep that Raw is being cut an hour because it's too long.
Interesting. So good stuff on both shows. I'm not saying both shows are bad, but there was just some glaringly bad stuff on there. And NXT, I think, is in this tough spot because of the injuries. The injuries are have forced them to do so many different things I don't think they were planning on doing. I think they're trying to do something interesting with Halloween Havoc. The spin the wheel deal, that's some fan service stuff if you follow old WCW on the network and different things like that. I think they're going to try and make that interesting. They're teasing that whole idea of Candice and Johnny win the titles. Can they be the power couples with titles? Is interesting, especially for hardcore fans. They're trying, but it does feel incomplete without Balor there. It feels like it's an incomplete show, and we're just waiting for their shoes to drop. And AEW kind of has the same problems as well. So definitely appreciate your takes here. If you have questions about this, save them. We're gonna be with us here in about maybe 10 minutes into the show. We'll do some questions and different stuff like that. Do want to get to this story. This one a little bit more worrisome. We'll talk about the big return in WWE this week, which is a big one. We knew this was coming, but we can confirm it. Daniel Bryan back in WWE. What do you think of this? He's returning from the recent birth of his second child. This is great news.
God, a little bit of positivity. God forbid we have it. This is awesome. Bryan's awesome. I'm happy for he and Bree and Birdie and Buddy. I love the alliteration of their family names. I think it's all just wonderful. I think they're awesome, and I would gladly like to see Daniel Bryan in the Thunderdome. He's saying the word Thunderdome. And we got
social
Bryan,
media posts where he just yells into the camera, Thunderdome.
We've got Bryan and Sammy for the IC title. We can run back.
Mm-hmm.
Bryan and Kevin. Bryan and Roman might be WrestleMania if we're stuck in the Thunderdome.
Dude, if we don't get The Rock coming back to take on Roman and his like power mania that he's gone into, quote me on that. Egomania. Quote me on that. That's mine. Who's going to be the egomaniac going into WrestleMania? I think Daniel Bryan against him would be a really cool thing. Daniel Bryan winning the Royal Rumble, finally give him that long sought after Royal Rumble win.
And it's against Roman. I think you can do it with Bryan.
Mm-hmm.
If Brock is coming back, I think Bryan is the Royal Rumble guy.
I love this. I love this message here from AJ saying, my wife and I did you both go as Daniel Bryan? I can't read this. This is a little weird phrasing here. My wife went as
Daniel Bryan for Halloween a few years back.
I need to see a picture of this. Dude, I'm sorry, AJ. I may have a crush on your wife if she dressed up as Daniel Bryan and she's strutting around trick or treating. I'm not coming for your wife, AJ. But if you take a hot lady and you dress them up like a character that I deeply appreciate, I'm falling for him. I'm falling for him hard. Okay. All right. Don't do that to me. That is putting a ribbon on a new Cadillac on Christmas morning for me. All right. Don't do that. That's not fair. All right. But no, I applaud you here. If you guys have cool costumes that you've worn in the past that are wrestling related, for sure. Daniel Bryan one's pretty good. You got to grow that beard though. Got to get that beard out there. Man.
Yeah. I don't have it right now, but it can come in.
But Daniel Bryan back, as you mentioned, a lot of new possibilities. Him and Roman would be very, very big, but obviously Roman's a little bit busy. Daniel Bryan has been, a big figure in the Intercontinental title scene. He tried to win the tournament that put that title on AJ. They had probably the best SmackDown match this year in that tournament final. That was something special. That was a WrestleMania level performance. Those guys went something like 30, 40 minutes on network TV with near falls, just a straight up banger wrestling match, and he lost clean. And that is Daniel Bryan. He is the incarnation of just straight up pure wrestling in the biggest of the big time. Like if people still complain that there isn't just straight up wrestlers who you love that are big characters at the same time, Daniel Bryan is that. I'm pumped. He's my favorite wrestler. I don't care how much bias I show. I'm jacked. I'm watching Friday Night SmackDown. I'm making some appointments. I'm not doing the Hulu Saturday morning deal. I'm doing the Friday night. I'm getting the oven top pizza ready to go because DB's going to be back on Friday night. I'm looking forward to this.
I am very much excited for this. There's a Universal title match with Braun Strowman and Roman Reigns. God, I wonder who's going to win. There's a tag team title match with the Street Profits, who are now the SmackDown Tag Team Champions, as they swapped belts. Kevin, I wasn't on the Monday show with you where they just said, like,
that drove me crazy, didn't it?
Well, what else do you do at that point? I honestly, I was like, okay, makes sense. What else are you going to do? I'm on the red show. Can I have the red one, please? You know, like.
I'm going to the red show, so give me the red belt, and then I'm leaving the blue show, so here, you take the blue belt.
And Adam Pearce is like the elementary school teacher who's like, all right, guys, tradesies. You said tradesies, okay? So we're going to do this. I talked to your parents, so it's okay.
Like hand-me-downs. It's like hand-me-down clothes.
You know.
Yeah, definitely here. So let's get into some other worrisome COVID-related news. The collective events occurred this past weekend in Indianapolis, Indiana. This is a collection of events ran by various different independent promotions, mostly under the GCW banner. And these were kind of like boutique wrestling shows. There was the Bloodsport show. They take down the ropes, and it's kind of like worked, strong style MMA pro wrestling. And then there was Effie's Big Gay Brunch, a very inclusive show for the LGBTQ community in wrestling. And you told me about that show being very entertaining. I know people that worked on that show who said it was a really, really great time. Shimmer had their all women's show on there. There was a lot of different things for all different types of wrestling.
Which might have been the best show of the weekend. Mm-hmm. Like for the Culture, which was like strictly for like black wrestlers, that was a strong show. JTG of Crime Time was absolutely on his game, maybe better than we've ever seen. There was obviously spring break, because spring break in October makes so much sense, Kevin. I want you to know I had to cover it. I did wear a Hawaiian shirt and had a drink in hand. It went well. Ricky Morton wrestling Joe Janela was fantastic. The clusterfuck was just that. And speaking of, let's talk about COVID. Because that's clusterfuck in life.
And it's unfortunate because these were great shows. And I want to preface that these are really well-received shows where social distancing was put into place at the venue, where, you know, I'm told that people were wearing masks and you know, being regulated and being told to keep their masks on, different things like that, right? And these were all broadcasted on Fight.tv. And so this is trying to get independent wrestling going in the safest way you can. But we have some positive COVID cases of some people that performed on the show coming out of it. And where do they stand currently? Because I wanted to talk about this yesterday, but there was some concern from people I was talking to that it could develop into a bigger issue today, and it has.
So Dan the Dad came out first. He came out yesterday and said he had tested positive. He'd be taking all the necessary precautions. Today, Cabana Man Dan, not to be confused with Dan the Dad.
That's a little confusing.
Also tested positive for COVID-19. And he says on Twitter, okay, guys, please get tested anytime after an event and before another one. Enclosed is my 6th negative COVID test I've taken last week. And to ensure the safety of others going into this weekend's events and training, I got tested again today, and it came back positive. So that's 6 negatives and
one positive.
You know,
yeah. It's a hard thing because, you know,
unfortunate, man.
It's not easy to test for. We can say that. I mean, I would say the only positive it seems like is there's a lot more accessibility to get testing now, which is good. But that's going to make your numbers go up, and you're going to catch a lot of people with asymptomatic stuff, which is, you know, that's you brought up Dan the Dad right there. He's asymptomatic as it stands, and hopefully he stays that way. and hopefully everyone involved it simply has an asymptomatic case of it. Or
and
at least,
hopefully, because we don't know, asymptomatic cases don't also result in the long haul COVID after effects that we're hearing about, like your mental health and your exhaustion and just terrible things.
yeah, definitely. And going and doing these events is it's pretty challenging.
I want to first of all say I commend pro wrestlers who want to continue to provide an outlet and an escape and a distraction, because as I watched the collective events, it was so clear the camaraderie has never been stronger, and we have never, I say we, but we have never been closer as a wrestling community. I think people want to see life return to normal, but I would like to see a little more caution moving forward. I know AC Mack is another one who tested positive, and he said he wouldn't be doing any shows or training or hanging out or anything, so he'll just be sitting it out at home. St. Louis Anarchy, who was doing a huge tournament, just canceled the tournament and it's over. Danhausen, everybody loves Danhausen. He's a great.
I've interviewed Danhausen. Spooky season for him. Prime season.
He's a great spooky guy. It's unfortunate that he has been exposed to COVID by being at these events.
He has tested negative.
But Ring of Honor will be
asking him not to perform at the events
and sending him home, which I think is a great move on their behalf. Everybody be safe. Just, take it as seriously as you can. Caution, 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 and we'll beat this thing one way or another.
And I've talked to you about how concerts I think are going to have a longer haul. Big arena shows are going to take a longer haul to get back to. But something makes me think indie wrestling is going to be right there when the green light is go. Indie wrestling is going to fill rock clubs before bands can. And that is not a shot at rock bands or their audiences.
You can take
wrestling fans, different dude, different breed.
You can take the industry away from the carny, but you can't take the carny out of the industry. You know what I mean? Like you can't. And I love everybody who has had the ability to provide for their families and for themselves by doing these events. But you know that the minute you get this green light, you're there. You're there, and you're looking for every gimmick to get there. And let's just be safe. I want safety first. We have so many things colliding in our world at once, and I just want to see everybody as safe as can be.
And the holidays are coming up. It's going to be a little bit more challenging with that. I know the Halloween holiday is coming up. We've been talking about it, but Robert, I know we haven't settled on a date. We have to settle on a date for our Halloween Havoc watch-along party. We have to settle on a date for this. We got to do this before Halloween coming up here. Sometime, maybe even before that night's team. Maybe we do something this weekend. We got this weekend off. We don't have a pay-per-view this weekend, right?
We do not have a pay-per-view this weekend. What are you doing on Sunday, Kevin?
You want to do Sunday, dude? Want to do Sunday night? We do some spooky time on Sunday night?
Maybe spooky. Maybe Sunday night spooky time is what we need to do.
We get some lights in here or
something.
We
get some popcorn. I can get some mood lighting going.
All right, we're gonna watch Halloween Havoc on Sunday night. We're gonna set a time, but I'm gonna ask you where you are watching, where you are listening. You need to join us for this. Follow at WrestleZone.com. And I think we'll give away some prizes too. I will be mailing out some prizes from this one as well. So if you share the link and you watch the show, we will do some prize giveaways, some goodies, right? So we'll trick or treats via mail, and we'll spray it all down with Lysol before I put it in the envelope. We'll work on that.
We will. I see a comment here saying, "Am I going as Seth Rollins for Halloween?" No, that's just I wake up and I look in the mirror and I just am.
You just are.
Kevin, we had a big couple nights of wrestling. I want to get your take, because I didn't get to talk to you about this. John did, because we're separated now. For Spin the Wheel, make a deal.
Yes.
Shotzi Blackheart got a lot of flack for the way that she said these words.
Why?
Because she was living her B horror movie dreams.
Yes.
And like, I get it, but I understand. listen, spin the wheel, make a deal. This thing has some goofy stuff on it. I saw tables, ladders, and swords on there. I saw the Devil's Playground match, which doesn't exist. I saw a Buried Alive. I saw Shotzi's Choice, so I have to guess that one of those things will be Shotzi's Choice, and the other one will be like a trick or street fight, because those are easy to do.
Yes! Every match on the show should be a spin the wheel, make a deal.
I think they should get at least one more in there.
Yes. Every single match on the show should be spin the wheel, make a deal. I say, for one night, go ridiculous. Go ridiculous. Like, go bar none ridiculous. And just treat it like an isolated thing. Like, this is not like a non-canon show, but this is just another space and time, you know? Almost like what you did with the Boneyard match, where it's like, we're going to treat this like it's a different thing. This is a night where a cinematic match, I'm on board. It's Halloween Havoc. Get goofy. Get weird. All right? Like, I'm all right with it. If it's isolated to just this show, I'm okay with it.
I agree. I would like to see some silliness.
You want to jump into some questions here to
you know, Kevin, we are the most interactive wrestling podcast out there. We do this for, like, hey, you guys get your comments on screen. If we see something we like, we put it on there. Yeah. You know, and I think that is an advantage that we have, and I'm looking forward.
This is the time for the diehards that watch every show too. This is the time for the new people that are watching the show for the first time to get your stuff up here. And also, if you're listening, maybe you hear a question that you're thinking of. You're just listening to the podcast side of things. Thank you so much. We have a bunch of new people listening in Europe right now. Thank you so much there. And we hope you guys are hunking down and staying safe. So definitely subscribe to the podcast. Available now on Spotify. Thank you. We started to chart in some countries over there as well. So we got to check the charts and see how you are doing. LCD Sound System. Earlier, I said AJ Harris texted in the show saying that his wife went as Daniel Bryan for Halloween, and that this immediately made me have a crush on his wife. And he says, Big Kevin, check your Twitter. He also says, you can have my wife. All right. We're trading wives now. I don't have a wife to trade. I'm sorry there. Yes, Big Kevin, you can have her. My wife.
Wow.
My wife. There we go.
Wow.
Sorry. There we go. There's a 2006 reference.
Oh, hold on, because about a week from today, Borat 2 will be on Amazon Prime Video.
I just canceled Amazon Prime. I just wasn't using it.
That is a mistake.
And then that got announced. There we go. All right. I'm borrowing someone's password. There we go. Let's get into some questions here. People, are we going to get a monster truck sumo match for Halloween Havoc? Do you remember that from what Halloween Havoc was that? 95, 96?
1995.
That is a ridiculous match. Go ahead, lay it out for him.
Hulk Hogan and the Giant, aka the Big Show.
That big, nasty, smelly giant.
Who at this point is Andre's son.
Yes.
They're fighting with monster trucks because that's what they do. I saw that comment.
Developments with AJ's wife. He is now texting and saying the wife just threatened my wife.
The wife
is the wife. I'm home. I'm dropping an elbow on Holmes right now. All right.
Meanwhile, James Espanto Fernando Taguay says you can trade John Clark. Now I like that. I like that we knew enough to not trade me, but so we have given up John Clark to AJ Harris.
Oh God, I needed this today.
So monster truck sumo match on top of Como Hall, which then results in the Big Show falling off of the roof of the building, and then
and this opened the show. They opened the pay-per-view with this,
and then he comes back and wins the title in the main event.
Yes.
Now, Saul Salzad saying, Big Kev, you remind him of the Forward Man, played by Andy Kaufman. I believe we're talking about Laka on
Laka wrestling.
Are you going to give me a thank you very much? No.
Follow up your questions about anything going on in the world of wrestling. Definitely shoot them out there. Some people with different takes here. Is there anything that can be done at this point For the AEW Women's Division, Bob Coaster texting in, our friend from, I believe, Bob, you're out in Pittsburgh, right? So is there anything that can be done at this point to save the AEW Women's Division? Here's the thing. I thought Akira Shida and Big Swole had a fun match. I think Britt Baker's still a really cool character. I just think they're kind of in this waiting period until Britt's ready to get back and be a full-time superstar for them. And, Akira Shida, she's a great wrestler. I just don't see star, I don't know what to say there. I'm not trying to take anything away from her, right?
I think that last night's show was a step in the right direction. I saw a lot of people trying to say Big Swole's trash and she's green and
really?
She needs work and
I didn't
but like it was still the best thing that they've done, and Big Swole is over like Rover with that audience. And I think it's just a matter of getting to Britt Baker at full gear. Mm-hmm. Let's just. She might as well do what New Day and the Street Profits did. Here's your belt. This is your division now. Here's your belt, because Britt Baker is the star. She and Tony Schiavone in a spa was like the greatest segment on last night's television show, and she's only going to get better from there.
I agree. Let's see. Who is looking forward to the dinner between Le Champion and MJF? This will be on next week's AEW. We talked about this earlier within the show. This was entertaining, but this isn't going to be a 20-minute segment. I mean, this is going to be 2 or 3. It's going to be 2 or 3 minutes at the least. If it's
going to be 20 minutes spread across like 5 segments.
Okay, they could do that. I mean, are we going to just be constantly cutting back to them at like a Sizzler? No, Sizzlers are closed, right? Are we cutting back to them in like a steakhouse where maybe Chris Jericho lost his championship belt?
That would be funny. I do think meat market. There's some meat markets open around here. Let's film it. Let's get some steak.
Mm-hmm. How do you like your steak? I asked John Clark this last night. How do you like your steak, Robert?
Hold on. What was John Clark's answer?
He liked it medium rare.
All right. I want to let it be known that John Clark can, in fact, sit next to me at the dinner table. Okay. I also like my steak cooked medium rare.
I'm medium well. I like some texture. I like some grit.
All right, Kevin. What I need you to do is
mm-hmm. the hair my headphones are on. Go ahead.
The hair that's on your chin.
Yeah.
I need you to grow it somewhere else, pal. And I need you to eat your steaks like it's proper to eat it.
Yeah, no, I just gotta make an adjustment here. I just gotta make an adjustment. Maybe have a private conversation with you while we're in it. Just give me one moment. I'm gonna turn my mic down for you guys that are on air. Okay, I'm just gonna turn my mic down. Only Robert's gonna be able to hear me right now. Okay, all right. We're back, so that's good. We just had maybe you may have heard something off the microphone there. It was a little aggressive. Yeah.
I care about Kevin's dietary life, and I want him to eat proper.
I'm eating steak, all right? I'm eating hard red meats.
It's medium rare, a nice T-bone or a nice fillet, medium rare. It's very well cooked. I look forward to seeing what kind of steaks they choose. This will go a long way in deciding who my favorite wrestler is.
We have an update from AJ and his wife in the situation where AJ Harris, who's been watching the show, has said that his wife, who dressed up like Daniel Bryan, who I said I immediately had a crush on. And then AJ told us that I could take his wife. I did not. Let me confirm. I did not agree to that. All right. I did not encourage that behavior. And then we had a follow-up a few minutes ago, AJ telling us that he was in trouble, that his wife wanted to end his life. It rhymed. It sounds funny. Make it a bumper sticker. He now texts us with this update. Well, it's official. It gets my relationship over than Eva Marie's career. Jesus.
I've got news for you. Good news. Eva Marie's coming back, so your marriage is about to make that comeback, baby. But I do want it to be said that we are a very interactive podcast, and while we do appreciate AJ offering his wife to Kevin, we're not that interactive of a podcast.
We are not that type of show.
So while we thank you, we have to respectfully decline.
I respectfully say no thank you.
Now back to steaks. What I want to see is a lot of JR's barbecue.
We're the furthest we've ever been from wrestling on the show ever.
But that's where you're wrong, because we're talking about an angle on a wrestling show. There's going to be lots of JR's barbecue. There's going to be lots of little bit of the bubbly. I want branding. And whatever Tony Khan owns, I want jerseys hanging in the background of the steakhouse, it's going to be great.
Oh, Tony Khan owns a steakhouse, right? He's got to own a steakhouse.
I imagine so. I imagine he's got steak in a steakhouse.
Or they got one in the stadium, right? They have to have like a steakhouse or something in the stadium.
He's got steak in a steakhouse.
Yeah.
Kevin.
Yeah.
Okay.
So clever. I thought I was a comedian. Look at you. The stakes have been raised. Look at you. Oh, look at you. Nishad Joy saying NXT will counter program this with NXT Stakeover next week. All right. Sean Smith telling us there will be a surf and turf match.
All right. So what would be your choice of surf? Surf and turf. I just want to talk about food at this point.
We're getting an email from our boss. What were you doing? You're trying to get listeners' wives traded to you? Like
Now, I want to stress, we're not that interactive of a podcast, so we will talk to you all day about your dietary choices.
All right, so here's the thing, guys. If you are enjoying this and you've been watching the show now for 50 minutes and you like Robert and I just goofing, right? I need you to do something important. I need you to share the link. I need you to pass it on to your friends. I need you to share this in whatever wrestling page that you go to. And tell people that we're just a bunch of goofy dudes. And we go to the wrestling show. You know what I love to do at wrestling shows that I miss doing? We talk about not being at wrestling shows. I can't do this anymore. I can't yell at children in a public space. Used to be able to heckle children. I mean, aggressively insult children to their face with their parents' presence, sometimes even with their parents' acknowledged permission, to aggressively heckle children. All right. And then said children insult you, and then you sell it because you're a good adult man-child who understands that kid is there to have a good time. All right. Those are things I miss. I miss the ridiculousness of what we're doing here. And that's what I think we're trying to do. We're trying to make a virtual clubhouse, the virtual couch, the seats warm. Come on down. All right. And let's talk some wrestling. We're going to keep doing it as well. A reminder, we'll be adding some additional pop-up streams with little WrestleZone catch-ups, we're kind of calling them, not the sauce, the actual catch. All right, and we're going to catch you up on some different news. We'll still have different shows like the WrestleZone wrap-up coming up after shows, popping up in the afternoon, pay-per-view post shows, and we're going to add a SmackDown show. So literally hours of content, video and audio coming from us on YouTube, on Facebook, and in the podcast feed.
That doesn't even count the astronomical amount of interviews with names such as Hakeem Zayn, Rohit Raju, Deonna Purrazzo, James Storm, Effie. We just talked about Big Gay Brunch. Effie was interviewed for the podcast. We've got the Impact audio feeds from their media calls. We've got the Triple H media call audios. Get on the podcast feed. Go on Spotify. Go on iTunes. Go on Stitcher. Wherever you get your podcast, type in WrestleZone. You'll see that black and red logo that doesn't change. We took away the flames from it because we're not as edgy. It's not cool. We did get rid of the Monster Energy drink from our system. It's okay. You can do it too. Go click the link. Go enjoy this. Go.
You know who was very angry with us when we took away the flames from the WrestleZone logo?
I imagine Dominic was.
Guy Fieri.
Oh.
Guy Fieri, very angry about it.
Oh, Jesus.
Very.
Well, we've talked about steaks. We've talked about diners, drive-ins, and dives. Kevin, eventually at some point, maybe not for next WrestleMania, regardless of where it is, because I don't trust COVID. At some point, we're going to have to sit down, get a meal, get several meals.
But Robert, maybe we can do that before. I wanted to at least get this in. I know we did some ridiculous questions. I want to get this in. I posted this article up at 101wkqx.com. I want you to go see it now. It's up on my Twitter. I sent this to Robert at like 5 o'clock in the morning when I saw this, and we've been talking about it, and we're trying to get Robert out of the house. Robert doesn't want to go anywhere. He wants to stay indoors. John Clark, who's on the podcast, is itching. If you told John Clark he could go sit on the ring post right now, he'd be up there before we even finish the sentence.
I like John, but I'm trying to live.
I know. All right. And everyone's dealing with this a different way. We hope everyone gets through it safely. But could concerts be coming back? I told you I thought rock clubs would be filled with wrestling fans before they're filled with a rock and roll crowd, but it could be changing. Great veteran alternative psychedelic kings, the Flaming Lips, all right, of Oklahoma City have put something together. Their singer, Wayne Coyne, will get in a big, giant hamster ball that I've been trying to get Robert in to get out of the house for months now. Robert refuses, okay? He refuses to do it, though it was an idea he himself presented on the table.
There are sanitary issues. I want the proper tubing for my bathroom necessities. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, we're not saying you have to be in there all the time. You're going to have to get out of the ball at some point to go to the bathroom. All right?
Not if you have tubing, Kevin.
And it's like see-through?
Modern problems require modern solutions.
All right, so go read the article up at 101wkqx.com. The Flaming Lips have done an entire show. They did not like a full-on concert, but like a mini concert. It was like a test run. They shot it for a video where an audience of 100 people are all in their own individual big, giant space bubbles, hamster balls. All right. And I'm saying we put Robert in a hamster ball. I get in a hamster ball and we're balling to Tampa Bay WrestleMania. Will they let us in to WrestleMania? We could roll. Doesn't matter where our seat is. We just start rolling. We just roll onto the floor. We just roll on the floor. You know what I mean? What if they did an indie wrestling show like this? It would be insane.
I shudder to think, honestly. Indie wrestling fans would go bananas.
Yeah.
Inside.
And there's no way they wouldn't want to do it if they could. No one could bump into the bubbles and stuff like that. Someone would have to get power bombed out of the bubbles, and then the bubble breaks, and then you have a bubble boy, and it's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. Yeah, it'd be something.
Somebody has a bubble shaped like a cherry, and then somebody starts to pop your cherry can, and it's just like lots of things will happen.
Oh man, we've gotten very ridiculous for the better part of the last 20 minutes. So if you've enjoyed this, share the link. Boy, do you stink. This Sunday night, we will be doing a special Halloween Havoc 1998 watch along. You got the WWE Network, fire it up. Maybe you got that thing on DVD. All right, maybe you want to pull out the old DVDs got on VHS. All right, you want to plug it into the VCR in the garage. Go ahead and do it. We're going to be doing that. We got to settle on a time for that, Robert. We haven't set on a time for that yet.
Oh well, you know what? 8 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. your time.
Sounds perfect.
Because you're not on, normal people time. Listen, if Vince McMahon is on this time zone, your life is on this time zone, Kevin. I got news for you.
Come on, pal. What was the ridiculous thing that Bruce Pritchard put out there? He's like, "You're not working? What? You're not working at night when you get home?" Or something really ridiculous.
What are you doing, pal? I was sick. What are you talking about?
What? It's a massive inconvenience. So Sunday night, October 18th, we'll do that at, you said 8 p.m. Eastern? So
8 p.m. Eastern.
8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. And that'll make it 5 Pacific if we're
yeah, that's about right.
So join us for that. That'll be a hoot. All right. Football will be blah, whatever. All right. You can watch this fun thing from over 20 years ago. Some ridiculous stuff, I believe, Hulk Hogan and the Ultimate Warrior in this, and flash paper and fireballs not hitting faces, and just a bunch of ridiculousness from 1998, and some really cool undercard wrestling on that as well. We'll watch it on the WWE Network. You watch along with us, and we'll give away some prizes too. I'll be sending out a prize pack for some lucky viewers on that. So give it a view. We'll do that on YouTube and Facebook on Sunday night. We literally put that together in the show right now because we're so professional. Robert, what are you busy with, bud?
God, everything, Kevin. I do the WrestleZone wrap-up here with you, Kevin, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday. I do WrestleZone Tuesday through Friday. News. It's all me and the boys.
News with a Z. We don't just do news. We do
we do news with a Z.
Because it's branding.
That's right. And on top of that, I do Smart Card Moment podcast on Wednesday, breaking down the draft, asking Tony Mango, why are we still talking about this 3 hours later? I do the Paul Heyman SmackDown podcast with Callum Wiggins, asking, why is Al Wilson trying to bang Dawn Marie in the shower? And then I'm on Fightful, and I'm doing Fightful's podcast on Wednesdays. I'm doing Fightful Friday through Sunday. I might get on a gaming stream at 2 a.m. on Saturday. Who knows? My life, it revolves around wrestling, and I love it, and it's crazy, but it's always fun. Some people saying, are we going to get a WWE Biodome? I don't know
I don't know if you can get Pauly Shore to be a GM like that. I don't think we can get
Pauly Shore.
Yeah. Pauly Shore. That was such an odd way to describe it. All right. Give us a follow. Follow him at Dude Felice on Twitter. Follow me at Kev Kellum. I'll be busy doing a bunch of different content for 101 WKQX. Go to the website. Share that content. Share it. And I mean share it. Put it out there. Let it be heard. All right. You let it be heard. All right. Let's get it out there so people can see it and hear it. All right. So get those things out there. And so that'll be a grand old time. We'll do some Sunday night wrestling, spooky good party times with this. And then the week after that, we'll have Hell in a Cell. So we'll have a bunch of different stuff for you to cover. Just get in the party and bring your friends along, man. Especially if they're casual wrestling fans. We want them here too. Thank you guys so much for supporting the show. We'll be back with even more in the days ahead. So make sure your notifications are on Facebook and YouTube. And remember, when watching wrestling, you must do the most important thing. You must cover your face. You must wash your hands. I don't know why I have a dramatic British accent, but Robert De Felice of the Florida territory of Tampa Bay. Robert, what must you do when watching wrestling?
I believe you must spin the wheel. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
I have fun.
And wherever the wheel lands, a deal shall be made.
And I have made the deal, and I have made the deal to enjoy wrestling.